So hello Denise, and welcome everyone to Bitesize Edge. This is part of our series of podcasts when we're talking to edgeites, as I like to call them, the fabulous people who have come and joined us to pursue their NLP journey. And the lady we're going to be talking to today is the fabulous Denise Coates. Hello Denise.
Hello Pip.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Yeah, very good.
Good. What I'd like to do, Denise, first off, is kind of understand a little bit around your motivation to have attended to have found out more about NLP in the first place, and then make the decision to come and attend a course with us. What spurred that on for you?
Right, okay. Yeah, very interesting. What spurred it on for me was self-development.
Okay.
It was self-development, and it was actually after my medical journey that I'd actually used a little bit of CBT when confronted with the cancer scenario. That I wanted to understand further the mind and thoughts and how they impacted the outcome to most things, really, to be honest. And what NLP has done for me, it's helped me understand that more. To a profound sense.
Okay.
It really has helped me understand that. It was all about self-development. It was about, I wanted to change some things in my life. I needed to learn more to be able to change certain areas of my life and understand more about the power of the mind and how that has such an effect on everything that we do. That's the kind of like the starting process of it, really. It was all about self-development.
So about self-development and understanding the relationship of the power of the mind and our outcomes, I suppose.
Yeah.
You talked there a little bit around when you were confronted with the beginning of your journey with cancer. I know when we've spoken in the past, you've talked about how NLP has been really impactful in two key areas really in your life. That part, which is obviously we're going to talk about in a moment, but also from a work perspective. So if we look at the work element first, because I think the second half will be really powerful. So let's kind of talk a little bit around how NLP has really been helpful for you from a work perspective.
Right, okay. Yeah, really interesting that, because I've been in sales and marketing for quite a long time. And, I have had sales training. What NLP has enhanced on top of that was understanding like where your thought processes and how you can change your behavior would give you even bigger and better outcomes. Like reframing. I could relate to overcoming objections,
right,
and asking questions, overcoming. Sort of, I felt there was some similarities there, not totally, but I was being more open, understanding more, and being a better version of myself to get the best outcomes, to get the best results. And in my working life, that has really enabled me to do that. I did actually confess, I did read up my notes last night, and I read some of my book, and it reminded me really how powerful NLP is, and the impactfulness that it has. So for example, respecting everybody's model of their world,
that's quite a biggie, isn't it?
Pip, I remember, I listen, I love every day. I'm on a high most days. And that was like, oh my God, when I left there, I was on like cloud 9, because I could go back to my work and I could just, I felt so different, because I just accepted people for how they were, what they said, and being able to learn how I can influence their reactions to me, and get better outcomes, really.
Do you know, that really resonates, Denise, because I think one of the biggest learns for me, it's a little bit like you, when I started my NLP journey, I did it initially from a corporate perspective. I went in there with I'm here for work and blah, 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 and very, very quickly realised that it was way bigger than that. And I think one of the first learns I had ties into what you just talked about there, about respecting the other person's view of the world. And that moment of recognising that you're, excuse Sydney in the background, that you're making a judgment on someone.
Directive morale.
Yeah, it's human nature, isn't it, to immediately judge.
Yeah.
But having that almost that little thing up here that goes, hold on a second, I've got no idea what's happening in your world, so what gives me the right to judge you? I found that immensely powerful and something that I constantly remind myself of. So I get it. I get that.
Yeah, and that actually, I'm going to get this out every now and again, because that was a big thing for me when I left there. And you know, particularly, you know, like about presuppositions. Why do we presuppose? What good does that do, actually? Well, you know something, again, it was all after that week of having the course, going into meetings, going to presentations. Still now, I don't make no assumptions. And it's really, really, it's a much better place to be. For me, I can only, obviously I speak for myself, but in my mindset, and
Feels quite liberating.
Quite powerful. So it was that. And in terms of work, I mean, anything in my career, as you know, Pep, anything that enhances a better knowledge base to get better results, have better relationships with people. You know, we speak about rapport in NLP. Well, you know, that is one of the biggest things in my job. So I have to build rapport very, very quickly, and I do a lot of that on the phone. You know, I do a lot of that obviously when I go to exhibitions. And so for me, it was great having more understanding of other people and how trying to work out to get the best result from that person, whether they were auditory, vision. You know, I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
How I was mirror matching them. Yeah, it's really beneficial. It's been really beneficial for me. Good. More so than I think I realised, actually. And going back actually just a little bit, if you don't mind, is I really remember I just enjoyed it so much with both of you, and it started off as well with understanding that the subconscious mind is 90%. I think the conscious mind is 10%. Is that right?
Roughly.
And that roughly, and then actually thinking, you know what? And that related to my other journey, because that was a conscious decision that I made, and all of those things are conscious more because it was a bit of a, you know, a lightning bolt. But how powerful that is, and how we take for granted that we run on autopilot so much, and we can come out of that, can't we, with the art of this neuro-linguistic programming knowledge. Yeah, so I'm really grateful I did it.
I listened to something the other day, Denise. I was listening to someone else's podcast, and they used a phrase that really resonated with me again. And it was around how often we find ourselves stuck in a place of fear. And that fear might not necessarily be like fear, but it could be around change, about shifting and changing. If it's going, the place I'm in right now feels quite fearful, overwhelming, whatever it might be. And the other side of that is having faith. When I say faith, I'm not referring to religious faith, but just having faith that things can change and will change is really powerful. And I think one of the things with NLP is about establishing the awareness of where you're at right now, and that actually, if you choose, you can really shift and change those things.
Yeah, that really resonates, because one of the reasons why I came there was because I was looking to change my work environment, because I've been in a work environment for quite a long time, and I wanted some help with that. So that also changed me, and I totally agree that element, that place of sort of like not being certain, bit of fear. You know, we don't have to be stuck in that place, do we? You know.
No.
And I mean, I'm hoping that I will do a skydive at some point.
Of course you will.
Yeah, I will do it. Not hoping. Why did I say I'm hoping?
Why did you say that?
And they're things that, you know, just do it. Just do it. And I have, like I've said to you before, you know, I have changed my job. And actually, I'm in a corporate environment, and I love being in a corporate environment. You know, I really enjoy it. And I think the other things that I've done as well, having the self-development has enabled me to just go and do it. So many things that I wouldn't have done before. So yeah, that's a big part of it, isn't it?
Totally.
There's so much. I think there's so much to it, really, isn't there?
It's
so helpful.
So Denise, can we explore the second part of your journey, the second reason you came on the course, which was, you spoke very openly around it, and if okay with you, I wouldn't mind you sharing some of your journey, because I think it's really powerful, around your relationship, your journey with breast cancer. So I'll hand over to you to just tell us a little bit more on how you found that some of the things that you've learned have helped you with that journey.
I wanted to understand actually more about, I did understand a little bit about how my mind and my thoughts would have an impact on my physiology and my physiology when I got confronted with, Denise, there's an 8% chance you have breast cancer. Initially, obviously, I was in shock, but when I stepped out of that a few days later, I kind of took control of my thoughts, because I knew that if I, for example, didn't sleep, didn't eat, worried 24/7, that this would take control of this scenario that I found myself in, would take control of me. So I did, thankfully, I had a little bit of that knowledge base, and that soon kind of like kicked into action. I think in terms of the NLP and breast cancer and my personal situation, it was about learning more about myself, self-development, and understanding myself more to cope for the future as well, because in correlation with the cancer, everything's helped me. Everything's helped me. Getting a better job has helped me. It's made me feel happier in myself, which obviously has a knock-on effect to my health. But I guess I'm going to go back to, and I would say to anybody, Pip, that the power of the mind, your thoughts, you know what, it has a big impact on how you feel. And, I just knew I couldn't go down that road of, I'm thinking I'm going to die, and all these worrying negative thoughts. I knew that they would hinder me rather than help me.
Can you remember?
I wrote a blog, didn't I, about the time element of looking at the clock and thinking, oh dear, I'm up against time. But after that, I took stock. And again, this is where, when I sat with you guys for the first few days and you explained about the conscious mind, I thought, oh, I've got it. You know what? That is so powerful.
Can I just ask you about that blog, because it was really powerful in that moment that you just talked about there. So within the blog, you talked about looking at a clock.
Yeah.
Can you tell us for someone who hasn't read your blog, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that was such a key moment for you. Yeah,
it was. Thanks for picking up on that, actually, Pip. It was sitting opposite. I'd had, obviously, I got a call back and to the hospital, and I sat with, I had a couple of nurses in the room and a doctor, and my friend was in the room, and we'd had all the tests. They'd taken my biopsy, and I had several x-rays and everything else. And we got to this point where she sat me across the table, and I looked at the clock, and I remember looking at the clock, and she said, there's a chance that there's not 8% chance you've got cancer. And I looked at the clock and I thought, oh God, that clock's not, Denise, that clock's not going to stop. It's just time. It's just strange how time just, I'm up against, what I was trying to say was I'm up against time now. And that was quite a significant time. That was a moment, not time. It was a moment that was quite significant for me.
Yes.
And then everything after that, it was really interesting, because I did consciously decide it's Christmas Eve, it was Christmas Day the next day. I was going to Cornwall for a holiday, for a Christmas break. I didn't want it to affect other people's holiday. Why? It's a happy time. But yeah, I consciously made all the decisions I felt that would have a positive impact. you know, I just read recently that there's an article about what is positive about getting cancer. You know, it's not positive, let's be honest, but you can be determined and have the right mindset to overcome not just cancer, any challenge. And again, this is what NLP has taught me, and I've discovered since having my cancer journey and how I integrate it with everyday life since. I hope that answered it. The other thing about the cancer journey was that, you know, for the women that are listening to this, by the way, please don't be frightened. I was diagnosed with cancer. It was caught early. I was dealt with. So I wrote a speech about, or a talk about, my scenario, and I've spoken to thousands of people that go into the hospital, getting early cancer early in your breast. Honestly, you're going to be fine. You're going to survive. We're much more advanced, and, you know, having that determined outlook will, you know, will help you massively. And go on to do other things like what I've done, you know.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the work that you've been doing also around this, Denise, because you're a bit of a flag flyer now about getting the message out there into schools, aren't you?
Yeah.
Education around breast cancer for young girls. So
yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you know what, Pip, I feel so humble. I'm humbled to speak with you. It's a privilege to speak with you. It's a privilege to go on the course. I sat in Mount Vernon Hospital and I was having radiotherapy, and there was a lady in the room who was a philanthropist, actually, but she was crippled with bone cancer. And her husband had to put her on the bed for her to even have radiotherapy treatment. And all the other things that I saw, I witnessed firsthand. I just thought to myself, oh, I've just got to do something about this. This is just awful. And then when I came away and all my treatment finished, I thought to myself, okay, do fundraising. But what was the biggest impact that I could have and I could make? And who was it about, really? And for me, it was about the future. It was about education. It was about children in school learning about awareness of cancer. So I set myself off and I went off to an all-girls school. I formed a partnership with Chorney Girls' School in Luton. And the PSHE deputy there, we got together, and I learned that PSHE isn't compulsory anyway, but it will be as of 2020, and that what is cancer is taught in schools, so in biology lessons and all that kind of stuff, but not about the other things like awareness of cancer, like, you know, catching it early will save your life. It's quite big, and it's about knowing your body and working with the national charities. So I soon discovered that they weren't taught that, and that's what I've been campaigning for. I went to see my MP. I went to see Andrew Selous, and, you know, I was so overwhelmed as well, because he chipped in on a debate in Parliament and mentioned being paid tribute to me, which is really lovely.
Wow.
I've met with the national charities. I've managed to get myself on the news.
Okay.
To try and get on ITV News to get this message out there. And you know what? It's being written in policy this year. Fingers crossed.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. So
next year, Pip, next year, every secondary school child in this country will have the lesson about awareness of education, of knowing their body. Just know your body and your family and your friends. And if they're any in doubt, just go to the GP and get it checked out. Potentially that could save your life. Thank you.
Well done, Denise. Well done, Denise. That must feel pretty wonderful.
I'll tell you what, I don't know. Yeah, because I'm not quite sure. Because I believe, obviously, everything's a bit of a process. And I've been on this journey. And I wouldn't change it, because it's given me compassion and humility and kindness I didn't tap into before I had cancer. Just a little bit. I must have had some of it, but not to the extent I have now of being grateful, because gratitude's another thing that will give you such good feeling about yourself, and learning really more about how we can look after ourselves to look after others. So breast cancer awareness, I've been doing quite a lot in that arena.
Brilliant. I was listening to another lady, a lady who set up a charity called Copperfield.
Oh yeah, I met with them.
Chris, I think her surname's Hellinger. So she was 23, 24 when she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and that was quite a few years ago. And one of the things that she talks about, that you just talked about there, is around the fact that early diagnosis, the power of the mind, and just kind of going, well, hang on, this is how I want it to be for me, and the impact that has is absolutely huge. So where you are now in your journey, what are the key things that you're focusing on moving forward?
Well, for me to in terms of the policy that is going to be, if cancer awareness does happen, I'm just meeting a lady that writes resources for schools education in the coming weeks, and she works with government. So if that all happens, and although I've been working with my surgeon, Dr. Ruth James, who is, is happy to talk to anybody, she asked me to support the Association of Breast Surgery in London on international project for women in sub-Saharan Africa, because they've only got a 50 to 60% survival chance, but we've got a lot more, obviously higher percentages here. So that's what I've been doing. However, having said that, I'm going to go back to work full time, because the last 3 years I've dedicated a day a week to charity, and I pretty much think I've achieved everything I set out to do.
How fabulous!
So I'm gonna. Do you know what, Pip? I'll do a triathlon with you if you want.
Yay! I can't say I'm going to do a 10K with you though.
But I think, well, you could.
Yeah, I know I could.
You could, and because if I can do it, you could do it. And I'm really enjoying being at BT and working full time. And I'm going to go and work full time and just say, do you know what, Denise? I've done what I set out to do.
That's fabulous.
But having said that, the awareness side of it, if somebody wanted me to go and chat with a group of women, I'd happily go and do that.
Yeah,
because it's important, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. So Denise, what would be, before we quickly wrap up with talking around your 10K, just before we move to that stage, if you were going to give some pointers, so say maybe 3 key pointers you'd say to them around cancer, whether it's early, whatever it might be, what would those 3 things be from your experience, your advice?
In my experience, and something popped into my head then about, I've got quite a strong mind, and bearing in mind, I want to see something in place for people who do suffer with anxiety, because before they've got to tackle, mental anxiety, they've got to tackle that before they can actually get to the point of actually consciously thinking straight and acting straight. I hope there's something in place for that when women get told about having cancer, because you've got to, overcome that as well as overcome, your journey ahead. Now, I think the other tips I would give is that when I was 50, I kind of decided to start to look after myself. So I started jogging, and I started doing Pilates and just eating healthily, and it is that, again, has a big impact. I consider it's called integrated medicine, and it's something that's going to be, it's all out there on all of these forums and these cancer groups, and it's about us taking responsibility and looking after ourselves, but it's actually really enjoyable. And I see Pilates and yoga as medicine. As part of my, I'd have to have a life-saving drug every day. I take tamoxifen, I've got to take for 10 years. But I also see going to Pilates, going out for a run, as just part of the whole package of being all right. And when I was faced, again, sitting there in front of Ruth, the one question they ask you is, what's your level of fitness like? Well, if it's reasonable, you've got a better chance. So I guess that would be a tip. Just, if you can, think about those things. It could be something as simple as walking, and you obviously have to run, but and just thinking about being mindful of those things will have a good outcome, help you have a better outcome. And then being happy, just enjoying everything, doing everything you want to do, be happy. It's one of the best, it is the best emotion, isn't it? Do you think?
Oh, God,
Just be
God, yeah,
happy.
I think you know that.
All the other things going off in your chemicals in your body, and
Yeah.
just grasping everything. I will grasp everything I can. I'm probably too over happy.
Can you be? Can you be, Denise? I doubt it. So just to
Well, yeah.
no, you can't be. Just to kind of to wrap up, just tell us. So, depending on when people listen to this podcast, you potentially you're going to have already completed your first 10K. Woohoo! And that's tomorrow. Am I right? You're doing it tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, Monday, Bank Holiday Monday. So, what's
Bank
really
Holiday
good
Monday.
about this is I have signed up with the 1,000 Celebrate You women, and they're all together, and they're running their bra and pants, and it's a celebration of women. It's a celebration of any size of women. It's the journalist Byrony, can't think of her surname, and Deborah James, who is bowel babes, who suffered bowel cancer, stage 4 bowel cancer. She's running as well, and there's a lot. Lauren Mahon, I think her name is, and there's a lot of celebrities, and there's ladies from Loose Women are running in this 1,000 group of women. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Fabulous,
but
fabulous.
I'm not sure about my bra and pants though. I've got a nice sort of
Denise, you still there?
Sorry about
that. Sorry, you dropped off for a moment. Okay. So just tell us quickly, Denise, the charity you're doing it for.
Well, the charity I'm doing it for is the Association of Breast Surgery, who are based in London, and that's particularly with surgeons, and the surgeons are going to Bulawayo in July to teach and train surgeons in low to middle countries in sub-Saharan Africa the techniques that we use here in the UK and also in Africa. They don't do biopsies in sub-Saharan Africa. They operate. So what they're going to be teaching them is how to do biopsies. Fabulous. And then doing the operations. Okay. It's more or less, it's working with on an international forum like project.
The less invasive.
That's who I'm running for, and the thought of a woman not having no option is quite, it's quite horrible, really. We've got quite a few options here, so yes, for women in Africa.
Brilliant. Denise, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's been lovely talking to you. I always get a complete buzz when I have a conversation with you, because you said a moment ago about being happy, and I don't think I've ever spoken to you when you haven't been fabulously upbeat. So that's massively inspiring, and everything that you're doing again is hugely inspiring. So thank you for sharing some of that with us. So
thank you.
You're very welcome. So for anyone listening to this, you can listen to the other podcasts that we're going to be running over the next few weeks and months, and you can follow us on iTunes and also find us on Spotify. So Denise, best of luck for tomorrow, Monday, sorry, and wish you well, and thank you again for your time.
Oh, good luck to Jules. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.